All right, welcome to Alpha Talk. This edition, the primary edition. My name is Daniel Keeling, along with former City Councilman Eric Wilson. Tonight, we're going to go over the ballot here in Dallas County. The show tonight's going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk a little bit about each race and kind of describe the office to you and give you the candidates for each particular race. But before we get to that, Eric, would you like to introduce yourself to the people just a little bit?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Eric Wilson, former Dallas City Council representing District 8, Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Dallas. And again, we're here to discuss the primary races and give you a little bit of information about each race, but more so to educate you all as to what these positions are responsible for and how you can go out and elect the person that's going to be the best representation for you that encompasses your values, your ideologies, and just who would be a great representation for you. So we want you to don't be shy, ask questions, and if
Please ask
we
questions.
please ask questions, and we will do our best at the end to answer all the questions to the best of our knowledge.
Right. And we'll try to be unbiased with it. Again, this program is sponsored by the Alpha Sigma Lambda Chapter located here in Dallas, Texas, as part of our Voteless People is a hopeless people program. We do believe in getting the community involved in voting. Um, I don't know if you've noticed, Eric, that the numbers have been a little bit light here in Dallas County so far. We've only had a little bit over 13,000 people who've turned out in the last couple of days to vote since early voting started on the 14th, which is very, very light for a midterm election, especially in the primaries. That's basically a little less than 0.01% of the total population of Dallas. I think we have a little bit over 1.3 million voters here in Dallas right now. And people, I guess, are a little burned out on the election cycle, or I'm not for sure what's going on with that. But let me encourage you to be engaged. And we hope that this program tonight will give you a little insight. We know when you go to the ballot, there are going to be 25 races on the ballot. And a
Mhm.
lot of times you look at those at the ballot and you go, okay, why am I voting for a land commissioner or why am I voting for an agricultural commissioner? Well, tonight we hope to kind of describe their office functions a little bit to you so you kind of know why you need to vote for these people and how they affect you on a day to day basis. So you're able to make just a little bit more informed decision as to when you decide to actually go out and vote for these particular people. Okay.
And you brought up some good points, Daniel. And I just want to encourage everyone to educate yourself and go out and vote. These elections are oftentimes, as you can see, are very light. Most people want to vote in the presidential election, but these are just as important, if not more important, than the presidential elections. Oftentimes, many of these offices will have a quicker impact on your day-to-day life, your education, your economic status, a lot quicker than the presidential. So I would encourage you to go out and learn who the candidates are, sit back and listen, ask questions, and be impactful. Because this is where, if you heard the term "where the sausage is made," this is where particular parties' strength either increases or decreases in these particular elections. So if you're not liking a lot of what's going on, these are the elections that can change that.
Right. And kind of to give you a little bit about what we're doing tonight, we're going to kind of talk a little bit about the Democrats and we're going to talk about the Republicans. Yes, we know there are libertarians and we know there are Green Party candidates out there and we recognize they are out there. But most of those people don't run primaries and their elections just they pop up on the ballot in November. For you guys that just moved here in Texas, we have a primary season and then a general season here in Texas. That's kind of our first lesson here about our elections here in Texas, meaning that the Democrats have a primary, the Republicans have a primary, candidates run from each party within their party, a person is selected, and then placed on the ballot for the November elections. In some states, they just go straight to a general election. and everybody can just throw their name on a ballot, and they just go from there in their state elections, and it's just kind of a free fall. But in Texas, we call it the Texas two-step. That's kind of what they call it, the Texas two-step, meaning there is a process to weed out candidates before they actually put them in the ballots. But before we get to that point, the person running the board for us tonight is our Vice President, Forrest Jackson, and he's going to be pulling up websites for us. And the first website we kind of want to show you guys about, it's votetexas.gov. Forrest, if you could pull that up for us, please, sir. And while he's talking about it, again, that's votetexas.gov. It's actually going to be, there we go. There, we got it up now. Appreciate it, Forrest. And what this website is, this is the house of the Secretary of State, and where he houses all your voting information for here in the state of Texas. And as you look down, you'll see various titles on top where you can see voter ID, frequently asked questions. The second one is, am I registered? You guys have been watching the news a lot here lately. You've been seeing where people have been having problems finding out if they're registered, or if they send in a card, they hadn't received anything back from the Secretary of State. You've heard rumors of, Eric, you've heard this, we run out of paper. The state of Texas, where do you run out of paper? I mean,
Yes,
I think
yes.
you could come up with some paper to print some voter registration cards, But
Right.
Forrest, if you don't mind clicking on that, am I registered right there for us real quick, guy? And as he opens that up, you'll see that as you click on those links, there's various information in there. And these are some of the things that they would like for you to look for, to check if you're registered. You might want to check, your voter registration location, or, you can go to a poll location, early voting location, or, check your registration information. And it also has the election dates. You can do all of that there, and there's a link inside of there that you can click to actually find out all that information within that particular link right there. But this is a great resource, especially for people who have moved in the last 30 days, who hadn't received their card, or in the last year, you guys bought a new house and you moved from Duncanville to DeSoto, or from DeSoto to, Midlothian, and those type of things. This is the actual state of Texas site. So this doesn't have anything to do with the county. This actually is if the state has received your information, if you are registered in the state of Texas. And that way, when you go to the polls, if you need to go back to your old area to vote in the elections, or you can stay in the area where you're at and vote. Here in Texas, if you're in Dallas County, you can vote anywhere in Dallas County. Let me make that clear to people, because it used to be in the past where you would only be able to vote in your precinct on voting day. They changed that a couple of years back, where not only can you vote at early voting at any early voting location, on election day, you can actually vote anywhere within your particular county. So there's not really excuse now for people saying, oh, I didn't get a chance to make it home before 7 on election day, which your boss is supposed to let you off to work for. But
Correct.
There's some rules and regulations to go with it. You just can't walk up and say, oh, I need to go, little bit behind that. Just a little couple things you have to do before you can do that. But you're able to vote anywhere. And so there really shouldn't be a reason why you skip over an election. If you go back to the original screen for me, Forrest. And just going down a little bit further, we've had a fraternity brother that moved to Italy. He's going to be a little late in getting his ballot in, but if he wanted to file for an application by ballot by mail, this is the section that he would actually go to actually find out how to file for a ballot for mail. He may not be able to vote in the primary, but he would definitely be able to vote in the general election if he were to go in there and actually find out the information there on how to actually vote by mail. Okay. Let's say you did mail your ballot. There's actually a track my ballot in here. So if you did mail your ballot, there is a way to actually track your ballot now in the state of Texas. if you did send it off, to see if it actually did reach the location where it was supposed to or didn't make it to. So that's a new feature from the state of Texas. I think that's going to be pretty valuable in the future, um, especially with all the suppression that's kind of coming along with the state a little bit here. That's going to be a good thing to find out. It's also going to weed out a lot of people who are mailing ballots illegally. Also, I don't like really to get into that, but it's going to clean up a lot of dirty pool. What little dirty pool we do have here in Texas. Okay, and then the next section you see there is file an election complaint. Now, Eric, I know that you probably hear this a lot, especially being a former city councilman. People walk up to you and ask you how to file a complaint. You know,
All the time.
you know, the clerk was
Look
rude,
like,
or they didn't have enough pens,
oh,
or
yes, yes, yes. As an election judge, yes, I can definitely attest to that.
yeah,
On that, yes, they will, depending on, and I will say this. Hopefully, well, those complaints I would think have decreased because a lot of those complaints were I was not allowed to vote because I was in the wrong precinct or I wasn't able to make it to my precinct. Now that you're able to vote anywhere in the county, uh, as an election judge, that I don't have a lot of, and it helps a lot because most of the time people will leave work and to go to their favorite precinct or where they know would go vote, and not realize they probably passed 15 different voting locations. And sometimes those instances where individuals would be in Oak Cliff and then may have to go to North Dallas or may have to go to DeSoto, wherever they were last registered, and they would come in at 6:45 or 6:55, and there was no way that they could vote. So hopefully those will decrease those complaints. And also, I want to just mention one thing on the mail-in ballot in order to a lot of the issues that they were having with ballots being kicked back is that with the new changes, uh, it asks for you to put your last four digits of your social security or your driver's license number. I mean, so yeah, last four digits of your social security or driver's license. Put both that information on there, and that will avoid a lot of that issues with the mail-in ballots where it wasn't required before. Uh, but they're telling you now, if you listen to the radio or if you've heard any of the advertisements, they're advising you to put both that information on it to alleviate that opportunity for it to be kicked back.
right, right. And you've noticed, if you guys have been watching the television or checking your social media, you've seen that some counties have had kickback rates as high as 75% on mail-in ballots, which I think is absolutely ridiculous because some of your county people, just based off your previous, I'm not going to say that out loud, but based off the information that they have, are kicking stuff back based off of smudges and stuff like that
Hmm.
on some of these, where you smudged your middle initial and things like that on there, and they're returning some of these things. So they've been a little nitpicky this year, and that's just part of the process at this point. The county clerks are filling them out, and filling out the information they need, and it reaches Austin, and for some reason the state is kicking them back, or for some reason in certain counties they're getting kicked back because of anything, you know,
Anything.
a letter not looking right, or your signature where you don't completely. I have a bad habit of just putting a line where my G is on my
Hmm.
last, and people have had some ballots kicked back on that based off of your, people leaving a letter off their last name, which is like totally ridiculous. If you're making a signature, your signature is your signature, but it's
Correct.
happened. So if you need to check that, guys, here's a great place to do. All right. And moving down a little bit further, there's a section on here called Finding My Polling Place. that's a great resource for anyone in the state. Let's say you guys are out doing voter registration and somebody wants to know where their voting place is. If you guys are setting up to do a voter registration, this is a good tool to have with you so you can find out where people actually are, especially here in Dallas County. We have so many cities that sit on lines that sit between Dallas and Denton County, or Dallas and Tarrant County, or Dallas and Ellis County. And you're able to pick out exactly where that person lives and actually able to register that person or tell them where, their polling place is, or where they actually live, where their polling place is. So that's a great resource to have, for all of us. That is one of the great things that they did do on this website, and I do appreciate that. That's one of the good things that they do, Eric. I mean, I'm sounding a little negative towards the Secretary of State, but that is
Well,
one
I think
that
you
they do.
should. Can't give them too much credit, but at least they've done some work to try to be a little bit more transparent. But yet, there still are some things that's for a whole nother show that we can talk about.
Right. And at the bottom, just kind of moving on down towards the bottom, and we get ready to move into the next section, which is the part you guys really want to hear about. Um, there's always the need for poll workers. Eric and I and our Vice President Forrest have all worked the polls. We've worked them as elected judges or assistant elected judges or as poll officials or poll watchers. There's always people who always ask us, well, how do I get into this? Well, there is a link here where you guys can go on there and actually click on the link, and it will lead you to the information that you do need. So maybe you didn't do it this election, and maybe you want to do it for the general election in November. And so you guys may want to check that out. If you know someone who's interested, the average poll worker, what was it, Eric, 68 years old? Is that what it was? 68
Yes,
this last year?
68 years old, and there are a lot of individuals that are leaving uh, this profession. Some on their own, some have been called home, but the numbers of workers are decreasing. And if you know someone who's interested, they make $16 an hour. You're working during early voting. There's 2 weeks of 12-hour day of 8 hour days primarily at $16 an hour. And election day, $16 an hour is great for students. If you know students that are in high school that are at least 16, they can work the polls. They can be a student worker or individual who's unemployed, who or someone who just wants to give back while during these elections, it's a little bit busier, uh, but you learn a lot about the process and about the system and about the community that you serve. So I would encourage you to participate as an election judge. You make $18 an hour. You're responsible for opening and closing the polls, making sure that everyone has a right. Their right is uh, fulfilled in terms of them being able to cast their ballot and making sure that the election is safe and secure, and you're responsible for that. So you can either come in as a clerk. I encourage everyone, if you're doing it for the first time, clerk. That way you can learn the process. Or if you're just wanting to be an election judge, you can be an election judge, and there's training that's provided for you that will educate you on how to go about completing that process.
Right. I started out as working as an election official. And let me tell you, I learned a lot just by being there and learning the process and learning the different IDs and learning how the process actually worked. I really enjoy doing it every year. And like I say, I've learned a lot, and it really gets you involved into the process. Okay, let's go ahead and move into the next part of our program here. And if you guys will notice that through our scroll, we actually put the websites that we're actually using up. So you guys can go back and look at that information onto the votetexas.gov website. Was the website we're on now. And we're going to go ahead and start actually going over the actual races. You want to go ahead and pull that up for us? And if you guys have questions, please throw your questions in there. Forrest will take those questions and he will try to condense them down to an area where we can kind of kind of see them and try to answer those questions for you. If you don't want to answer it online, you can always shoot us something in a messenger and we will try to answer it also. Again, my name is Daniel Keeling, and this is my co-host, Eric Wilson. We're going to talk about Dallas County tonight, since that is the primary county that our chapter is located in. But we will try to sneak over and look at the Tarrant County side just a little bit also, if we have time. We are going to be unbiased in the way we talk. We are going to go over the Democratic side, and then we will flip over to the Republican side, right, Brother Eric? And talk about a little bit about the Republican also. Again, this information is all available here on the State of Texas website, the Secretary of State's website here. And we just kind of want to show this tool to you a little bit because it is a very useful tool for anyone who lives in the state. So let's just take that time right now. If you guys know anybody across the state, go ahead and share this video with them. Because like I say, this video's information is pertinent to any county in the state. Okay. At the end of it, on the right-hand side, there's a pull-down menu. If you can do that for us, and you can pull that down, and it has every county listed in the state. So we're going to be talking about Dallas County, but as you see, every county in the state, all 254 counties are listed here. This is the State of Texas website. So you guys are able to put every candidate in the state of Texas who is running for a public office at this particular time, which is a great thing to have. This is one of the tools that they haven't had in the past that's come on the website in the last couple of years, and this is really good information to have. And they break it out by Democrat and Republican on this particular site. Like I said, the Green Party and Libertarian Party, we know those people exist, but you know they don't really cover those particular races, and they usually just fall into the general because there's usually just one or two on those particular races. Or if somebody is just filing as a write-in candidate or independent candidate. Alrighty. And we can go ahead and push the red button for Dallas County if you don't mind, for us.
And just
Blue.
can I just add something right quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, in Dallas, in years past, and during primaries, you would have at a voting location, you would have maybe two different rooms. One room would be Democrat uh, uh, for primary candidates, and the other one would be Republican. This year, Dallas County is doing joint, so that there's one location, both Democrat and Republican will vote at the same location. Just that when you're going through the process of selecting your ballot, you'll choose which party you're voting for. So I just want you to, if you're used to going to go vote and going for a certain location as a Democrat or a certain location for a Republican, that is no longer the case. It will be all in one location. So you won't have to go to different locations.
Okay. And as we go down, you guys, you'll see two buttons. It's the ballot information, like I say, the county pull down, where you guys can pull down and go to any county. So if you guys don't want to follow us, you can go somewhere else and actually do that, or you stay with us here in Dallas County. And there's also an export button where you guys can actually print out this information and just pull all of these down, and you guys can, sit down with your husband or wife or friend. You guys can sit down and decide which candidate to vote for, and just print out a page. I know a lot of older citizens like to just print it out and look at the candidates and do their own research. So, all right, the first race that we have here in Dallas County, we actually have, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 races for U.S. representative here in Dallas County. Not necessarily that all of these particular races are within Dallas County. A lot of these races are multi-county races where you may have an office that runs from Dallas County into Tarrant County, or from Dallas into Denton County, or out to Rockwall, or down into Ellis County to our south. So, but these are the 5 races that we have here. Our U.S. representatives run every 2 years, Eric, which means
Yes.
that you don't like what they're doing 2 years down the road, you're going to see them again. So they're
They'll be
going to be
back.
back on your ballot. So the first race is going to be U.S. Representative District 5. You have two relative newcomers, which is Tarsha Hill and Kathleen Cordelia Bailey. In the second race, you have District 24, Kathy Francione and Derek T. Gay. Uh, and the third candidate is Jane McDowell. And we're just talking about the Democratic side. We do know that there are other races, on the opposite side, and we will talk about those candidates in just a few. Okay, Eric, you want to take District 30 for us?
Yes, I'll take these couple names. Arthur Dixon, newcomer, Jessica Mason. We have Bonsil Jones Hill, who used to be city councilwoman. Jasmine Crockett, representative, state representative. Barbara Maraway Caraway, Keisha Williams Langford. We have Roy Williams Jr., Abel, and you're going to help me with that last name.
Momageta.
Momageta, yes. And Jane Hope Hamilton rounds out District 30. And so these are your candidates for District 30, one of the more highly contested district races this year, as you can tell by the list of names there. Going on to District 32, Colin Aldridge, uncontested in the Democratic primary. And then you have District 33, Carlos Quintanilla and Mark Vesey was the incumbent. And I'll stop right there.
Okay, no worries. Back to District 30, just to be fair to all, it's Barbara Mallory Calloway was a former representative,
Yes.
particularly Keisha Williams is a on the school board down in Cedar Hill. Roy Williams, frequent candidate for the office of sheriff here in Dallas County.
Hmm.
He's a very well respected individual in the state house. He's been a legislative aide for several individuals, along with Jane Hope Hamilton. She's also been a congressional aide for several individuals also. Jasmine Crockett is the current District 100 state representative at this particular point. And like you mentioned, Jessica May, she's a Navy vet, and she's very active in the community. If you've seen Jessica out some places. And Von Seal, again, she was on the city council with you on the city council here in Dallas. District 33, Carlos has been a community activist for several years, and Mark Vesey is the incumbent in that particular race. Moving on to the next section, we're going to go ahead and go into government. It's really important that we talk about government just for a second, Eric. Just kind of throwing it out there. Um, how many does the governor have to fill in his time as governor while he's in office, Eric?
How many offices? Ooh, I'm
Board.
gonna go. I'm at board commissions. Oh, I'm gonna go over 100.
The governor actually has 1,200 positions that he has to fill over 4 years. 1,200.
Just a few.
And
Just a few.
just a few. And it's something that here in Texas we really overlook. We really don't think about it.
Hmm.
But the governor has to say so on every board and commission here in the state of Texas. And when it comes to economics in the state of Texas, we always talk about we don't get our fair share of the pie. Well, if we aren't picking the boards, we probably don't know about the contracts. If we don't know about the contracts, we can't apply for the contracts. So we're in the same position where you were before, right?
Correct.
And we have not had a Democratic governor here in the state of Texas since 1993. Not that that's necessarily bad. It's just that sometimes it's good for a change every blue moon, maybe. I don't know.
Hmm. Hmm.
in, the interest of politics, it's good sometimes to take a harder look at the governor's race and understand that this individual actually does have a lot of power. Things that we really don't discuss about our governor and his board appointments, things that we don't think about are things like federal pass down money. That's something we really don't talk about with like our governor.
Would
So
ERCOT be one of those areas?
he picked the ERCOT board. He picks all 5 members. And the last time he had his infinite wisdom, he picked 4 from out of state, right? I would
Right.
think in the state of Texas you could find 4 qualified individuals to talk about electricity. But these individuals that he decided to pick ultimately were individuals who work within the industry. And that's something as governor or in the House that things that they could fix would be the descriptions of the office that the governor is able to appoint.
Hmm.
But that's something we really don't ever think about, because like, okay, it's a statutory thing. Okay, I know he's
Oh, yes.
XY to Texas Tech board, or
Hmm.
yes, the board. Well, if that board isn't asking the right questions, you don't get those funds.
Your
Or
favorite HBCU board.
right. So you end up for individuals that may not be in the best interest of Prairie View, but they may be for guys that are in the interest of Texas A&M University, right?
Correct.
Exactly. So it's just throwing that out there, Governor. Like I said, when we look at the races, that's one of the things we told you tonight we're going to talk about is kind of what each one of these offices kind of does or whatever. And I
And
don't
I
know.
think
Go ahead.
I just think that it would be. Um, I think that we really the point that we need to stress the importance of this position and those boards and understanding where that power and understanding the knowledge of what comes out of these commissions and boards and what's decided. By the time the average person hears about what's going on with an HBCU or ERCOT, that would have already been in a board or commission months prior, and that decision was already vetted out. And when the governor speaks about it, it's pretty much a done deal. So so we oftentimes have very little opportunity to make any changes or sway any type of voter decision on that. So that's why this is important, understanding. Hopefully, if anything that we can do here today is to educate you on the importance of what each of these positions, what they impact, and how that impacts you, so that you as a voter can make an educated decision on: do I want this person leading 1,200 boards and commissions that affect the way I live right now? Do I like it? Do I not like it? Either way, but you understand what this person is responsible for. So, if anything you don't get out of this, hopefully you'll get out the importance of what they impact, and hopefully that will motivate you to make a decision on who's best for you and who's not best for you.
Right. And let me be clear, he doesn't go in every 4 years and say, okay, I'm appointing these people,
Hmm.
they're on a staggered term. So you may serve now. So he may leave office and he may have somebody who serves 4 years after he leaves. So it just they're staggered. So each year, people come up for, reapproval and things like that. And that's something that, as people, that are engaged voters and people that are engaged in the state, that we need to be asking our state representatives, hey, board and commissions are available, and asking the governor to appoint people who are more like us in those positions. Yes, we won't get every position, but yes, they will have your application. And if there is a fit, then at least we're part of the conversation at that point. Right now, um, we really aren't part of the conversation. So I'll keep it moving from that point. But for governor, we have on the Democratic side, we have Ignacio Barrantes, which I'm not very familiar with, Joy Diaz. I think most people are familiar with Beto O'Rourke from El Paso, Rich Wakeland, and a guy that I've been impressed by a little bit, Michael Cooper for governor. But those are your candidates for governor. Moving it right into the lieutenant governor, we have the Coalition of Black Democrats uh, and Texas Vice Chair of the Democratic Party, Carla Braley. You have Michelle Beckley, who's a state representative here in the state of Texas. And then you have Mike Collier, who ran a very strong campaign last time and lost by a very small margin against our current lieutenant governor at this point. A little bit about the lieutenant governor. He's basically the most important man in Texas government. He's the one that runs the day-to-day affairs in the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Our governor picks all the offices. This is the guy who runs all the offices. This is the guy who sets the agenda for the House and the Senate of what they're going to talk about in the House right there. That is a very important, because he actually sets the agenda for what the state is going to look like in the legislature every other year.
Mm-hmm.
Again, people that aren't from Texas, our legislature doesn't meet like some states every year. We meet every other year. So one year they meet in Austin, and the next year they take off to run up for elections. They get elected every 2 years. In that 2 year time, this guy gets to set the agenda. So when all these bills are filed and everything gets to go in and things like this guy actually decides what the calendar looks like ultimately. And he kind of sets his priorities, and everything else kind of falls in behind. So it's really an office that we need to take a longer look at and really press on voters that, hey, for lieutenant governor, let me stare at this ballot just a little while longer. The great thing about Texas is you can go in and vote for anybody. You know, you're not limited to just voting for one. Once you get into the general or whatever, you can vote for whoever you want once you close that door. And we're no longer a straight party. What I'm trying to get at, we're no longer a straight party ballot state. So you don't just go in and check a check mark and be done with it. You can actually in and pick and choose who you want in each race. And I would encourage us to take a little bit harder look at however you fall in that political persuasion. You take the next one.
Yes, Attorney General is S. T-Bone Rayner, Joe Jaworski, Rochelle Mercedes Garza, Lee Merritt, and Mike Fields. And so we'll go right in, just for the sake of time. I know that we want to try to at least get to the Republican side, and to be fair, we would do our best to get through these 25, and then so Controller of Public Accounts, Angel Lewis Vega, Tim Mahoney, and Janet T. Dunning. I'm sorry.
Okay. Alrighty. And we'll keep it moving on down the lineup a little bit. We will talk about the Attorney General a little bit, and we'll talk about that once we get to the Republican side. Um, uh, the Comptroller of Public Accounts, that's one of those offices that flies under the radar right now quite a bit. That's Glenn T. Hager. He's been there for quite a while. He's the guy that writes the checks. So, righty. Not really an office we talk about. And like I say, you don't really hear much from him, but he gives a monthly report on how much money the state of Texas has. He has some decision-making processes as to how and where the money is stored, which is always, so,
Want to know where the cushions are.
Exactly. So it's an important office, but, it's, they control a lot of the public funds here in the state, but they're controlled, and like I said, they're run a lot by accountants. So it's more of a figurehead because he's the head accountant. That's the best way to describe that job. Is he's the head accountant. Okay. The next office is Commissioner of the General Land Office, and that's the four candidates in that particular race are Michael Lang, Jenny Sue, Sandra Grace Martinez, and Jay Kleberg. This is one of those offices that we don't pay much attention to, but we really should pay much attention to in the state of Texas because it's kind of misleading as who they are. Okay. Texas history time. You guys know I love history. If you follow me on Facebook, you guys know I do a lot of history on my page. Okay. When Texas was being formed and they were coming into the United States, Texas had lots of debts. And the United States told Texas wanted to give them land in return for paying for those debts to helping, to come into the United States. The United States turned them down with the land or whatever. Well, the land that they were trying to give them was the land that's out in West Texas, which turned out to be the second largest oil field in the world, which is the Permian Basin.
Mm-hmm.
So had it gone to the United States would be making those billions of dollars. But instead, Texas is the only state who came in as a country who owns their oil reserves under the ground.
Mm.
So who controls that? The General Land Office. It controls. That's where all our money in our permanent fund comes from. Is from the General Land Office. That's where all that money for drilling rights and all that stuff comes from. It all comes from the General Land Office because they don't sell the land to people. They allow companies to come in and lease the land and get the minerals from underneath the ground. So all of those fields out there that Exxon and all these people are actually out there on, they're actually leasing it from the state of Texas to get the minerals from underneath it.
Mm.
So why would you want to be head of the General Land Office? Because all the money then goes into a hedge fund. The person who was the General Land Office commissioner before this would be a familiar name, George P. Bush.
Mm.
You would wonder why a Bush would want to be head of the General Land Commission. I mean, that doesn't sound like an office that we run. But when you go with the largest public hedge fund in the world,
You get to know
that
some people.
want to be over the General Land Commission. All right.
It's a
So
stepping stone.
in the commissioner, you get to pick where the money is held in the hedge fund, right? So who
Mm-hmm.
do you give the money to? Friends, right?
Correct.
To hold, all right. All right. All right. We got to keep it moving, guys. Like I said, we just got the 20-minute warning, guys. All right. Uh, I could talk about this stuff for days, guys, and you got to apologize, get a little bit excited, but just got to give you a little information. Commissioner of the Agriculture, Susan Hayes and Ed Erison. Sorry, Erison. I think I said that correctly. They affect our day here in the state of Texas. I think one of the ways that you guys see the agricultural commissioner in your life every day is when you go to the gas station. You'll see a seal on that gas pump every time you go to the gas station.
Mm-hmm.
That's the agriculture commission. Every time that you go there, you actually see that. So that's one way that they affect you every day. They do measures and weights here in the state of Texas. They also pass out something that's going to be coming into our new future here in the state of Texas, the applications for hemp plants here in the state of Texas to be able to grow hemp here in the state of Texas. And you guys may have been reading newspapers here lately where you saw where the under commissioner got busted for basically taking bribes to allow people to get permission to grow hemp here in the state of Texas. So, just something to think about. But I digress. Let's keep it moving. Railroad Commissioner Luke Walford. The thing about railroad commissioners, they have somebody on the ballot every time the ballot comes around. All their offices don't come up at the same time. So this time it's going to be Luke Walford here in Dallas. The next time it'll be in Houston. Next San Antonio. It moves around as far as the commission, and we'll talk about that at some point. So,
Okay.
all right, let's keep it moving. Uh, Moving into the Supreme Court, there actually be 3 spots open here in the Supreme Court coming up. Um, it's really important that we start to think about that. Uh, Democrats are really good at winning local elections in large counties, but they don't do so well in winning statewide elections.
Statewide elections, right?
And that's where the Republicans really do really well in those particular races. And that's the thing, you may have a majority minority court on the on the district level, and then you get to the appeals court and you may not see anybody that looks like you again at this particular point. So just
Exactly. So once it leaves your area, you're pretty much
right,
underrepresented
exactly.
as a minority.
Exactly. And I know Erin, so she would be a good candidate. Erin Newell, Amanda Raycheck, who's run previously for another office, and Julie Maldonado. You have to have a little bit of experience to run for the Supreme Court. You can't just jump up and say, "Oh, I'm running for the Supreme Court." You have to have several years of being experienced as a judge, and as far as that goes, in order to actually run for that, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to run for the highest court in the land, which is kind of fair, which, I understand.
Hmm.
The thing is the Supreme Court has a maximum age that you have to retire at. And this last election cycle, there was actually a Supreme Court justice named Nathan Hake who was going to reach the maximum age, and he decided to run again. So he's going to step down to his office and basically hand his office to somebody else. I'm not saying what he runs for, but he's to
Hmm.
somebody, and they're going to come in as an incumbent with like probably 2 years worth of time, under their belt and enough time to kind of establish themselves. Which I don't know if that's fair or not, but that's how he did it, and that's how the state of Texas is set up. Alrighty, moving right on down, going into the Court of Appeals. Um, I wish I had a graphic for you to kind of show you how the course is set up here in the state of Texas. But the Court of Appeals, you have Dana Huffman, and then you have Robert Johnson, who's also running. Um, you want me to go ahead and move on down into the next races, Eric, or you want to?
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. And we're coming on into the State Board of Education. Uh, Again, if you guys have been watching the news, there's a lot going on with the state of education going on right now. Um, the way they drew the lines, guys, it wasn't very favorable for people who are in areas where minorities seem to kind of live. Not saying
Hmm.
they really didn't do us very well in the way they drew the lines, which you have to live with the consequences of not voting, and I'm all about voting, so you have to those consequences. Uh, in that you have Orwell, Luis Cervantes, and then you have James Whitfield. In 12, you have Robert Valesco, Alex Cornwall. And then 13, you have a good one, Miss Davis. We all know her very well. She's running
Hmm.
out of, okay. And then you have Tracy Fisher running in 14, Prince Galore running in District 2. We've heard a lot about, you know, what they call it, critical race theory. And
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Critical race theory.
like,
Yeah. That. Yeah.
well, these guys also picks textbooks out also. So,
Correct. And Texas is one of the leading buyers of textbooks, and oftentimes, whatever direction Texas goes, normally a majority of the country follows suit.
right, whatever we buy, everybody else gets basically because we buy more textbooks than anybody. So, all right. Alrighty. And moving right on, guys, going on into state senator. There are only black senators in the entire state. One of them is here in Dallas. The other one
Hmm.
is in our fraternity brother Boris Miles. Both of them on the Democratic side. We also have state senator running in Nathan Johnson up north. And in the other races, two individuals that I'm not very familiar with, Francine Lai and Ferdy Mongo. I hadn't really ran too much of those people. All righty, keep it moving right on down.
And if you have any questions, please submit those questions.
Right. And let's go ahead and run right into District 100. Um, this is a vacated by Jasmine Crockett, who's actually running uh, for state for a U.S. representative right now in District 30. So it is a vacant seat. You have Daniel Davis Clayton, a person who's been around Austin for a long time, community leader, been around for a very, very long time, very strong candidate. You have Vinton C. Jones, who's also worked around the Capitol a little bit, Marquise Hawkins, and then we have person around Dallas that most people recognize, Miss Sandra Crenshaw. Alrighty. And then, alrighty. And moving
And
right to District 102, uh, Anna Maria Ramos. Okay. And you have 103, Rafael Anchia, who's a pretty strong leader. You have 104, Jessica Gonzalez, who has stepped up to the plate when everything went Washington. She did a pretty good job. Terry
hmm.
Mason in 105. And you have Victoria Nabi, who just got married. So she has a new last name on the ballot. So if you see her last name, Criado, I believe is the way she pronounces it. So it's not going
Yes.
to be Victoria Nabi. She's going to have a new last name on the ballot. So I do believe she's running unopposed. So she shouldn't have any problem in the general because she is running unopposed. In District 108, this is going to be a pretty contested race, which between Frida Harold and Elizabeth Ginsburg. Okay, that's going to be a new open seat.
Mm-hmm.
In 109, you have Carl Sherman, who did a pretty good job this last session. District 110, Tony Rose, standout guy. I don't mean to stop and talk about her too much, but guys, she brought $245 million worth of projects back to Dallas County. She got the biggest piece of the pie of any Republican or Democrat. We are getting the first mental hospital ever built in the state of, in ever state funded mental hospital ever in Dallas based off of work. And that's something to, because you just don't get that. You got to understand it's 8367 down there forever. And for her
Yes,
to
and it's
get
very
her money
difficult to get
back,
things through.
that's yes, that's major. 111, Yvonne Davis. In 112, you have Elva Curl. 113, you have Retta Bowers running against a newcomer, Udak Naganga. I hope I said it correctly. I'm probably going to get beat by one of my friends.
That's okay, but you did a good job, though. I applaud
But
you on that.
Retta's comment, you guys may know her by the Crown Act. A lot of you guys saw the Crown Act this last year, and that was one of her big things that she really pushed this last year. 114, you have quite a few candidates in this race. You have Chris Leal, you have Alexander Gill, you have John Bryant, you have Charlie Gearing, and you have Kendall Scudder in this particular race. Open seat again. It's a lot of competition. Anytime you see like 5 people on the ballot, you know it's an open seat. Okay.
Yes.
And 15, you have Julie Johnson. If you want to do the appeals courts real quick, or you want me to go ahead and go with it?
We're almost done, so you can go ahead and finish out them. But
Okay.
most of
All
these are unopposed
right.
in terms of, yeah.
Moving right along, guys. All right. We're moving into the Dallas County. These guys are all located down at the courthouse down there. You guys have seen them out and about quite a bit. You're probably getting a lot of mail from them, or you're seeing a combination of these people on all the flyers that you're getting in your mailbox.
Right
I
about
know
now, yes.
like 4 of them a day in my mailbox. But you have Marcella Moore. You have in 7, you have Nancy Kennedy, and they're running for the appeals court. So they're running for the appeals courts, and these people would be hearing the appeals here in Dallas County and one other little small county next to it. All righty. Now we're moving into the district judges, and these guys are all located at the courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. And if you guys don't know, in 2008, there was a big move in Dallas County, and the Democrats basically swept everybody out of the courthouse that wasn't Democrat. And a lot of these people are running unopposed. There are some that do have people running against them, and we'll try to get to those pretty quickly.
Yes.
But we have Nancy Kennedy, we have Veretta Frazier, we have Martin Huffman, you have Stacey Williams, you have Judge Tanya Parker, you have Judge Dale Tillery, you have Aisha Red. Pratt, y'all know we do have, that's the wife of one of our fraternity members, so we want to try to get out support her. I will throw that shame plug out there. Gina Potter, we have in the 192nd, you have Maria Avacedes and Tracy Shelby. I really wish they would have put the type of court that they had on here. In 193, you have Bridget Whitmore. In 194, you have Judge Ernest White, who's been there quite a while. You have in 194, Ernest White. 195, you're going to have Hector Garcia, sorry. In 203, you have Rocky Jones. The 204th, you have Tammy Kent versus Bree West, which is going to be an interesting race. 254th, you have Kim Brown. 255th, you're going to have a continuous race between Vonda Bailey and Kim Cooks. In 6, you have Sandra Street and David Lopez.
Mm-hmm.
255, you have Jennifer Lopez. And again, guys, I know we're going a little bit quick. If you need to, you can go back and look at the slides and go through them. He does have that at the bottom. You have in 282, which is turned into an ugly race, a very ugly race between Teresa Jane Hawthorne, Amber Gibbons, the incumbent, and Andy Chatham. I'm not going to stop and talk about that, but it's turned ugly in that race. But
Unfortunate.
unfortunate on levels. All righty. And the next one we have in 283, you have Leela Mays running. In 291, you have Stephanie Mitchell. 292, you have Judge Brandon Birmingham. 298, I know it's a lot of Coy guys. You have
Hmm.
Emily Tobolowski. In 302, Sandra Jackson. 303, Ladidra Atkins. 304, Andrea Lane. Cheryl Shannon at 305, Pumley at 330, 363. You have Tracy Holmes, and in number one you have Tina Clinton, and then number five you have Carter Thompson.
And these are criminal district judges.
I'm gonna around a little bit, guys, because we're running out of time. But what I want you to know is here in Dallas County is other than the race for representative, you're gonna have to go through and check mark all of these races for the individuals that you want.
Correct.
So it's going to take you a little bit of time. This is not going to be a quick go in there and you're out in a minute and a half. It's going to take you a little bit of time to get through the ballot, guys. Believe it or not, if you were in Houston, you may have upwards of like 80 races that you may have to do because you have water board and all those other races on there. So be happy you only have this many. Okay, let's go ahead and move on down. And we go on down to the attorney.
So we have a question. So you think we'll be able to get in the question right quick?
And we'll talk about this one real quick.
Okay.
And it's going to be a race between Judge Cruzo and Elizabeth Frizzell.
Yes.
The last race that they had, guys, that was a super close race. I mean, we're talking percentage points where there could have been a what do you call it? I can't think right now. Where you
Recount.
actually recount of the ballot, guys. It was that close. So I expect the same thing this time around, also in that particular race. Okay, what's your question for us, there? What's the question, guys? Okay, what's your question, guys? I can't see.
So how will the new voting rights regulations, Senate Bill 1, impact this year's primary?
It's already impacted the primaries already quite a
Hmm.
bit because of so many ballots getting kicked back at this point. I'm going to be interested to see how the mail-in ballots look when they first get in this year, and see how they compare to previous years. I look for them to be down almost 40% across the state. Uh, that's a high number where people are going to get provisionally qualified to vote, and they're going to have to go back in to actually find that was actually their vote. And whenever you do that, the percentage of people actually go back to actually certify that that was actually them. I mean, that's usually a very low number. You know that as an election judge, that when you do a provisional ballot, there's almost a 0 to none chance that those
Zero
people
and none
get
chances.
back. That
But you have,
be proven
yeah,
that
you have enough days to be able to cure
was
your
actually
vote, as they
good.
call it.
You know, I think that way you're going to have a lot of people who are always dependent on our elderly vote.
Correct.
Really going to affect their vote a whole lot because they are primarily the people who actually vote like that. People who live in nursing homes who actually have their ballot sent to them and they'll fill it out and they send it back. The onus is on them to fill it out right.
And the military. Don't forget about the military.
Right. And the military. And one of the things this year is if you help somebody with the ballot, you have to sign the ballot also that somebody helped you fill out the ballot this time around. And that's going to cause a lot of issues because if they check, yes, somebody helped me to fill it out, and that person doesn't also, they don't have their name, then that ballot can be declared invalid. So
Hmm.
those little sneaky laws that's going to a lot of people that people didn't. It was just something that was thrown in, and you didn't read the fine print. So
Yeah, and at the beginning, one of the things that was most disheartening was that a lot of the ballots were when they were being kicked back, the state of Texas didn't have an answer for it on how counties could cure those ballots. And there were at least a week and a half before they finally came out with how to make those adjustments. So just think about all those ballots that were kicked out because of that and didn't get a chance to be corrected.
Okay. Well, guys, we've kind of run to the end of our time. Again, my name is Daniel Keeling, and again, this is Eric Wilson. Again, if you guys have questions, you guys can in the chat, and we will rerun the shows on Facebook and on other platforms over the next few days. If you have a question, just throw it in there or throw us a message at Alpha Sigma Lambda, and we will try to answer those questions. Again, thank you, Forrest, for running the board for us, and
Thank you.
we thank you, and you guys have a great night.
Agreed.